Now if you were like me when you first started playing Below Zero, you saw the Ventgarden and was like, hey, that's a cool plant, but what you didn't know is that you were actually looking at 4546b's third largest living Leviathan class creature, only being outsized by the Sea Emperor and the Sea Dragon, making it the largest living creature in Sector 0. Clocking in at 110 meters tall, the Ventgarden is a stationary Leviathan that anchors itself over thermal vents and feeds on the bacteria and microorganisms spewed from the planet's fiery core. Resembling a large jellyfish, the Ventgarden has a huge and hollow mushroom-like top which contains plants that grow as a result of the geothermal energy and nutrients kicked out by the vents below. This transparent bell contains a large bioluminescent red seaweed-like structure at its centre, surrounded by 6 long upward-facing branches with flat coral-like surfaces covered in sand, where the plants have space to put down roots and grow. The Ventgarden's main body is dark blue in colour and is tipped by 8 blue and yellow petals arranged as its top. Hot water flows underneath these petals and is absorbed into the body, flowing up the Ventgarden's branches as it cools. The water then filters out of small holes on the branches, depositing dissolved minerals and feeding the internal ecosystem. This allows the Ventgarden and the species which live inside it to both benefit. The plants are protected from foraging herbivores by the Ventgarden's bell, meaning they can grow and flourish. These plants then absorb heavy metals and gases emitted by the thermal vents below, which they turn into useful chemicals which the Ventgarden needs. The spiral plant in particular is very important for the Ventgarden, filtering most of the heavy metals produced by the vents. The plant itself can only be found in the deep purple vents, or inside a Ventgarden. With the plant dependent on the creature to live outside of this area, the two have formed a very close relationship. At the top of this mini ecosystem sits a bioluminescent cone-like structure that gives out a blue glow. This cone is linked to a vent on the creature's top, which pushes excess water out of its body to maintain a consistent internal pressure for plants to grow. It's also able to slowly push you up to 15 meters if you sit on top of it. Not exactly a quick escape route in an emergency, but every little helps. The Ventgarden has 6 long tentacles covered in light blue hair-like structures named Scylla to help the creature move through the water. These tentacles end in red branching hooks which grow downwards into the seafloor, securing the Ventgarden in place in its warm-watered home. Between each of these tentacles is a glowing yellow spot that somewhat resembles an eye, but we aren't sure exactly what these are for. If they aren't eyes, they could also be used for attracting small microorganisms into the Ventgarden's internal ecosystem. On the underside of the creature's main body, a set of flaps can be found which open when anchored over a thermal vent, allowing nutrients and plants to enter its body and help the flow of warm water around the ecosystem. This gap is just big enough for you to squeeze through so you can explore the inside of the Ventgarden for yourself. Only 2 adult Ventgardens can be found in Sector 0, both located in the tree spires. Neither of these Ventgarden move, and the red branches on their tentacles suggest that once they are anchored, they are very unlikely to ever move again. It's possible that if they were ever to detach from their home, that they would simply die, but we don't know that for sure. We don't currently know how Ventgardens reproduce, but their 20-meter long babies can be found aimlessly swimming in small groups around adult Ventgarden in order to strengthen and grow their tentacles, as they will need this strength when they find a vent on which to anchor themselves on and mature. These young also lack the red hooks present on adult Ventgardens to attach themselves to the seafloor, so these might be something that develop once they have found their permanent home. Ventgarden juveniles remain sealed until they are anchored over a vent, meaning no sand or plants can enter their bodies. Once they have found a place to anchor, the heat and pressure from the planet's core activate dormant stem cells, which then develop into an opening over the course of a few months. Looking at the concept art for Below Zero, it seems the Ventgarden's design changed slightly during the game's development, with 3 concept arts suggested as possible final designs. Concept art A seems to be the most different to the design we know today, with a rounder top and very alien arches at its centre. Concept art B and C more closely resemble the design we know today, with concept art B looking the most similar overall. Concept art C looks quite similar but has a more spiral-like centre with a bulb-like structure sticking out from the creature's top. Whoa, look at the size of that whale out there. Wait, that thing isn't going to try and eat the Ventgarden we're inside of, is it? If you want to be sure, you'll need to watch this video next to make sure we're definitely safe in here. And special thanks to my patrons, Asmodeus and Matthias, for making this video possible.